in the heart of Los Angeles, where wealth, power, and fame often hide behind tall gates and perfect facades. A brutal crime shattered the illusion of a Hollywood legacy. Inside a quiet Brentwood mansion, a legendary director and his wife were found murdered, not by a stranger, not by a burglar, but by someone far closer. This is the story of Rob Reiner, and the night his own family became the center of a nightmare. To understand the weight of this tragedy, you have to understand the man at its center. Rob Reiner wasn't just a filmmaker. He was a storyteller, a cultural architect. From the beloved fantasy classic The Princess Bride, 2 decades of influence in Hollywood, his work shaped how millions saw love, humor, and humanity. But behind the spotlight, there was a quieter life, a home filled with family, with laughter, with history. At his side was his wife, Michelle Reiner. To friends, they were inseparable, grounded, private, real. The kind of couple people believed would grow old together, peacefully. They did grow old together, just not the way anyone expected. It began like any other morning in Brentwood. Quiet streets, filtered sunlight through palm trees, a calm that felt untouched, until one moment changed everything. Their daughter, Romy Reiner, arrived at the family home. Something felt wrong. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the door, slightly open. She stepped inside. What she found would stay with her forever. Her parents, lying motionless. The house, no longer a home, but a crime scene. Within minutes, the home was flooded with law enforcement. Yellow tape sealed off the property. Neighbors watched from a distance. Whispers spread. Inside, investigators began their work. The findings were immediate and disturbing. According to the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner, both victims had suffered multiple stab wounds, precise, violent, personal injuries to the throat. To the body, this wasn't random. This wasn't rushed. This was deliberate. And perhaps most chilling of all, there were no signs of forced entry, no broken windows, no forced doors, nothing to suggest an outsider had entered, which left investigators with one terrifying conclusion. The killer was someone the victims knew, someone they trusted, someone who had access. As detectives reconstructed the timeline, one name kept resurfacing: their son, Nick Reiner. To the outside world, Nick Reiner was simply the son of a Hollywood icon. But behind the scenes, his life told a different story. Sources close to the family described years of struggle, substance abuse, instability, periods of isolation, a life slowly unraveling, far from the polished image of his parents. Then came the night before the murders, a Christmas party hosted by Conan O'Brien, a gathering filled with laughter, music, and celebration. But not everyone was at ease. Witnesses would later describe Nick's behavior as erratic, agitated, unpredictable, and at some point that night, an argument broke out between Nick and his parents. No one knew it then, but that moment may have been the beginning of the end. Hours after the bodies were discovered, police made their move. Nick Reiner was arrested. Charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, with special circumstances. Prosecutors alleged he carried out the attack himself, using a knife, a deeply personal act of violence, one that left a family permanently broken. In his first court appearance, Nick stood silent, facing a future that could include life in prison, without parole or even the death penalty. His attorney, Alan Jackson, urged the public to hold back judgment, calling the case complex, sensitive, a tragedy, and perhaps something not yet fully understood. As the legal battle begins, the emotional aftermath continues. Romy Reiner and her brother, Jake Reiner, released a statement, "Unimaginable pain." 2 words that barely begin to capture what they lost. They asked for privacy, for remembrance, for the world to see their parents, not as victims, but as people who loved and were loved. One detail stood out. Nick Reiner was not mentioned. What drives a person to turn on their own family? Was it anger, addiction, a moment of uncontrollable rage, or something deeper? Hidden beneath years of silence, the truth may only emerge in court. But one thing is certain: on that night in Brentwood, a home filled with memories became the scene of unimaginable violence. A Hollywood legend gone, a family fractured beyond repair, and a question that will linger long after the headlines fade. How well do we really know the people closest to us?